Good morning, Hickory Sunrise.
Good morning.
Sunrise.
Great to have everyone this morning. Thank you all so much for coming out. We have a great group here this morning. We all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, we thank you for this day. We recognize this is the day that you have made. We choose, Lord, to obey you and rejoice and be glad in it. Father, we ask that you would give us hearts to serve, to be a blessing to the people you put on this earth. Father, we thank you for this group. We thank you for allowing us to be here. We thank you for the health and strength and clothed in sane minds that we can do that which you put before us, and we give you the praise and the glory in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you, Don. Good morning again to everyone. We have, it came in late. There's a pile of money here. Jake's money.
Yes.
You have $1 throw in there, throw in the pot. I'm going to be handing it over to Cinda. Cinda has the program for today. And then after Cinda's program, we can discuss any club business or any other items that anyone has.
We ought to discuss the Salvation Army kettle, because
Yes.
still want to subscribe volunteers for that.
Pardon me. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Cinda, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay.
Let me just explain something. Can I send you just for a minute?
Sure.
Lori asked what the money was for.
Uh,
I just thought I'd explain what that money's for. It's actually called Jake's money because my dog is a big old dog, and so we give the money as if it's for my dog to eat, but it's not. Actually, what him to eat. Actually, what it is every year, usually in January, we feed the hungry at Christ Lutheran Church, and everybody in the club brings some soup, and we all get together and we make sandwiches, and we provide them with soup and sandwiches and chips and desserts and all that kind of stuff, and we do blankets and throws and gloves and socks that's been donated, and we give all that to the homeless, and we do that once a year. So everybody brings $1 at each meeting, and it's called Jake's money, but it really goes to that people. Thank you.
and Richard's getting a new truck next week, he said.
They can be hard times.
I got you this because you didn't know. Help man, you're responsible for help you find. That's my bad.
I put in extra this morning for Jake's money.
Cindy, is yours.
Thank you. Good morning again.
Good morning.
This is my first program, so everyone will just need to take a take a deep breath and roll everything on it. The couple that I have seen, it was a mix of something that someone found interesting or something about themselves, and this is a good combination of those two things. I was listening to a podcast, and it was talking about generational diversity and how we look at things according to the generation that we're in, and the effects of happenings on how we perceive the world, how we communicate, and what we believe. And they had different markers, and I printed some up in case you wanted to see, but different markers, everything from how 9/11 is affecting the Generation Z, that they've never known a world without it. The Korean, Vietnam conflicts, how that affected those generations. And they also talked about cuspers, and those are people who bridge two generations. They don't numerically, they may belong to one generation, but they're so far in the pack that they act as a transition generation for those in front and behind. And they have found that cuspers are the best at resolving conflicts, mediating translating, coordinating things, because they have that dual understanding of two generations. And I was thinking about that with our club in mind. And as we talk about not only reaching out for service, that we talk about reaching out for membership. And the best way to serve people is to understand them, or at least have some understanding of them and some understanding of the need. And I thought a little generational diversity, a little bit of knowledge about that will help us. So I was thinking about that, and I was listening to this podcast, and it started talking about mentoring, and how mentoring has always been something that has been the older passing down wisdom to the younger. It can be in a job setting, it can be in an emotional setting, but now they're doing something else, and it's been called everything from reverse mentoring to inclusive mentoring, where older people are being mentored by younger. And it's not so much let me teach you in the ways of your life as in let me bring my life into yours. Let me show you, let me explain to you what's happening in my world. And given the diversity of our club and the diversity of generations in our club, I thought this would be a good topic to bring to you so that you can understand and maybe even look for that younger mentor or that younger person of influence that you want to get to know or that you want to learn from. I am lucky, extremely lucky. I have two young people that I have that relationship with. One is a young man that works for me, and he has a journalism degree, and we have connected over his love of writing and my love of reading. So he brings to me articles, he brings to me podcasts, and we share that together. And it's amazing to me how much I learn about him by what he's listening to, what he's reading. It really shows me the way that he's thinking. And then given this, the results of this pandemic, it leads to something else. In everything, there's a cycle. And we saw a trend going over the last couple of years, especially in my business, transitioning from an in-person marketplace to an online marketplace. That usually would always start online, but then it would transition to in-person. People would do their research online, they'd come and buy in person. And we saw that was getting ready to change. With the pandemic, those type of things are accelerated. And they've been accelerated by 10 years. We're seeing a drastic change in the last 3 months over the way people do things. It's going to boost a technology boom. It's going to boost a kind of an awareness boom of a younger generation. Everything that was trending that way has been pushed forward. So it helps us all. It helps the people who are younger to have people who are older understand where they're coming from. People older, where the younger people's technology are taking you and what's going to affect your lives from here on. Because you can either know it and embrace it or try to ignore it and find less and less options. It just reminded me, and bear with me, this is years ago. I was the caregiver for my mother-in-law for the last 10 years of her life. And Social Security decided to transition from an in-person check that you got in the mail to direct deposit. You would have thought the world was going to end. You know, somebody was going to have access to her accounts. It was the worst thing in the world. And I was like, look, it's going to save you from going to the bank. That was one of the highlights of her week. She would go get her hair done. She would go to the bank. She would go to the grocery store, and then she would come home. That was her plan. That was her schedule. So, but once she embraced it, and she's like, I can go get my money anytime. I don't have to wait for the post office to deliver my check. She understood the benefits of that. And in an even bigger way, here we are. We're getting ready to do that. Now we've gone from checks to cards. Any benefits can be loaded onto a card. So I say if you embrace it and you see how it can help you, it'll help everybody. But a couple of things I wanted to bring up in this generational diversity, in the mentoring process. Hierarchical, sorry, I have a hard problem with R's first thing in the morning. Hierarchical decision making is changing. It used to be decisions were made from the top down. They made it at the top and then they trickled down. That is no longer the case. You've got a younger generation that does not wait for their experience to back up their opinions. That could be bad and that could be good. If you want fresh ideas without somebody saying, well, that doesn't work, ask a younger person. They have no problem giving you their opinion. It's worth the risk, taking a risk of a younger person. Because how is your mentoring relationship with them going to hurt them? It's not. The same way that it's going to give you a clue into their behavior, it's going to give them a cue into your behavior. And a lot of younger people are growing up without the benefit of grandparents, extended family. We are so mobile as a population that a lot of them don't live around family anymore. And their relationships are all online. Facebook, Facebook groups, that type of thing. And the value of a speak up culture is what they're bringing to us. It used to be that keep your mouth shut and just go along. If you were the dissenting voice, that was not a popular thing to be. But now, they don't feel those restrictions. And they will speak up. We can hear them or we can ignore them, but they're doing it. And it's going to affect us all. And technology is still the center, like we were talking about earlier with the direct deposit. It's coming. There's going to be so much development in the next 5 to 10 years. We're going to say, well, how did we ever, kind of like the iPhone, how did we ever live without this? You know, we've gone from just a few things that you could do on your phone to walking into a grocery store and just waving like a magic wand, just waving your phone at the cashier. So I just wanted to bring that up. Couple other things. It involves a whole mind shift set. You've got to open it up and say, what am I willing to do? So I have to do things incrementally. I don't make wholesale changes very, very well. If I add something, I let it settle in, I get used to it, and then I add something else. And something that I've added are podcasts. That way I don't have to listen to all the political ads on the radio. I'm done. But podcasts are a great way, if you don't have that younger person in your life, to hear what they're thinking. And for me, the two best ones that I have listened to that have been recommended to me by people under the age of 25 is Planet Money. Planet Money is a podcast, and they take a look at money, its effects on different things, very much like the, I don't know if anyone read the book called Freakonomics. It was written by a young man, an ASU grad, just in case you needed to know that. And it took a look at economics and how that trickled out and how that affected the population as a whole. Planet Money does something very much like that. And it gives you an idea of what's coming up, how how the younger generation is thinking about it. So I would recommend that one. And then the second one that I've added is Code Switch. And the basis of the name is sometimes older people talk in code. Well, so do younger people. They talk in code. You can't always decipher it. And Code Switch gives you an idea of what is happening in this particular culture, how it is affecting all racial areas. It gives us an input, especially for us when we're so desperately trying to learn and to grow in our relationships with each other. It gives us a great view on, we may see a news story, how does this affect this population? How does this affect this population? What everybody's thinking about it. So, I have no idea how long I've been going because I am a savvy person. But that's all I had. I brought in a couple of charts about getting to know the generations, and it talks about the different things that influence those generations. I also brought in communication and engagement styles, color-coded for everybody. And it talks about how different generations communicate. And if you are interested in getting to know people of a younger generation and having that relationship, it's a great thing to know that they may look like they're not paying attention because they're on their phone, but they are multiply engaged in many things. Whereas we talked about multitasking, they switch. They don't do many things at one time. They switch from thing to thing to thing to thing. So it's great information. I wrote up about clash points, that how different engagement styles can clash, especially in the workplace. So, any questions? Anybody?
This was very helpful back when I was a manager for the work.
Yeah.
I really look at it, although I did get plenty of advice.
Well, it's one of those. I have found how many things that I'm dealing with at work translate into home or church or anything else. Because this started out as a workplace thing, and then I just saw how big it was just in my life and how many fingers I had in that life. I run a business, and one of the things I was talking to a financial advisor, and we were talking about employees. And she was asking me about my different employees, and so I was talking about, and she said, "Do you realize that you're the oldest person in the office?" I'm 55 years old. I'm the oldest person in my office. It brings a completely different type of energy. Now, I've got 2 retired ladies that come in and help with different projects, but yeah, it brings a completely different energy to it. And if you are ever looking for hope in a very fractured world, gather yourself some young people, because they really do bring it.
I have an generational issue with my own children. Send them money, right? And I'm waiting for the checks to get cashed. And I wait, and finally, eventually, the check gets cashed. And sent my grandson, who graduated from high school last year, a $100 check. Never got cashed. So I finally talked to my son, who hemmed-hawed around for a while, and I said, "Don't you have a checking account?" "No." So my grandson doesn't have a checking account. He said, "Dad, he doesn't have an ID." And so you can't cash the checks if you don't have an ID, or it makes it a little bit more difficult if you don't have a checking account. And it never occurred to me that people don't have checking accounts. And it's made me think differently about giving them money anymore. I won't.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a solution for that. It's called Venmo, and it's an app, Venmo. Venmo, all you do, you have the app, you hook it to your checking account. You don't want to write a check, but you want to send them money. You connect with them on Venmo. It comes right from your checking account to whatever account that they want.
Venmo.
It could be Venmo.
E-N-M-O?
E-N-M-O. My father had the same problem.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My children will thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great thing because it'll connect. It'll either deposit it into a gift card or something else, however they choose to receive it.
You know, we have the same problem when we deal with Austin and the folks at the soup kitchen. We can't give them anything, and you don't want to give them cash because you don't know how they're going to spend it.
Yeah.
And the same thing, serving them is tough in that kind of environment.
And you're going to see too, gift cards used to be a big deal. You know, you would give the gift card, and that's gotten to be more onerous than a blessing to somebody, because then how do they do that gift card? And now you can do it directly. If you're doing it on the app, you can do it directly into their account at Walmart or Target or something like that.
You can also use your phone. Most new phones have wallets.
Mm-hmm.
And you can put your card in the wallet and just, my youngest son taught me that, just, Mom, don't deal with cash, I don't want cash, Just send it, and then you can take your phone. You don't have to take your card, cash, or anything to the store. Just take your phone and use your phone to pay for anything you want. Yeah.
And what's the one that BB&T has? I forget the name of it.
Zelle.
Yes. Yes.
Was it VAIL?
Where you can use
CZLL.
a cell number or something.
Zelle,
Send it right to their account.
BB&T.
It's a sad day, though. My wife and I were talking about this just the other day.
No.
It was a sad day when they
Zebra.
took out of the schools
ZE.
how to set up a
E.
checking account, and all those
LLE.
things that went with the
BB&T,
home economics, if you
Wells
will.
Fargo.
Because most kids now, they don't, well, they have no desire to deal with a check. I guess not knowing how is not the issue. They have no desire. They want it instantaneous. They want microwave. They want it right now. So,
And that is their culture.
absolutely.
That is their generation.
And we gotta appreciate that.
You do.
Absolutely, yes.
And here's the thing, by appreciating it, we get the benefits for ourselves.
Yes.
You know, you don't have to worry about checks being cashed anymore. You just send it and it's done. Yeah. Absolutely. One of the benefits, for example, I had a guy. We have an alarm system on our office building, and I can remotely access the alarm system anytime. Can I tell you how much of a benefit that is to me on a Saturday morning? I get up and I go, did I lock the office on Friday? Did I do this? And I don't have to worry. I can just access it. I'm like, thank you, from the ease of my bed. I could ease my mind. So that's really helpful. And they're also conducting research into for Alzheimer's patients. And I don't know if anybody has ever, we used to make, we call them busy aprons. We would have an apron and it would have different tactile things for an Alzheimer's patient to do. You know, schools and just different things. And they're doing the same thing now with iPads and Chromebooks, putting it online. And that's a way that they can measure their cognitive reactions to things in a way that physical, you had to have somebody looking at them to be able to measure that. Now they can do it online and they've got the results. And they're like, that's advancing Alzheimer's research in a way that they never anticipated. So, yeah. Chromebooks are cheap. Get yourself one. Hand it off.
Talk about that tendency not to use financial instruments, young people. I have a young bookkeeper at church, and a lady called up and says, I'm not going to give you any more money. I said, why? She said, I gave a check for so-and-so and so-and-so, and it hasn't cleared yet. And I got to looking, and it's sitting in her drawer from January 19 this year till now. And finally I said, I'll take the check and deposit it for you, you know. She just, it never occurred to her that it needed to go to the bank.
Yeah. Well, and
Wow.
like most churches now are doing
don't like that.
online banking. Yeah.
I'll speak for them.
Well, not many people know that those instruments have a lapse, 60 days, and they're just tissue paper or whatever days.
Yeah.
But the only problem is a lot of this stuff is like credit cards and debit cards. It's a mess when they call you and tell you that we've changed your bank account because there's been some charges we've questioned and they don't line up and they're not totally correct. And then all your auto pays and your retirements, this sort of stuff, it takes about 6 months to get all that straightened out again.
I will say though that if your bank and your banker does not help you with that 101, I would find a new bank because that's what they get paid to do, is to ensure all of your auto debits go over to your new account.
Now this past week, my debit card out of one of the banks, one of my debit cards, they called and said, you've got 7 charges on this card and they're all from different areas. You know, are you familiar with this, that? I said, well, 2 of them, one was Mike's Subs and the other was a restaurant here in town.
Yeah, like if you're going overseas, you have to tell them, I'm going to be out of the country.
The other ones, I had no idea. And they said, well, they came through without any kind of PIN number identification. So they said, that card's canceled, we're sending you another new one. You know,
But
that's not too bad But when it's your main checking account, yeah, that is a problem.
And I agree with you there, but here's the other way to look at that. Imagine this was 10 years ago and you're having to monitor that yourself and you're not able to do that until you get your statement. You know, those protections, although they do come with a little bit of a burden, and they're protecting us almost in real time.
I will say too that with the electronic piece and the debit card, I would never set up a reoccurring bill pay to where they draft from my debit card for that simple
No, they
reason.
don't. Yeah, I don't.
So
but-
if your card is compromised, you're going to get a new card. Whereas if you have them draft from your checking account,
you got to change everything.
well, I don't let people draft from mine. I set it up that way I have control over it. They can't just go in and take it out whenever they want to. I have control and I can stop it. Way easier coming out of an account than a debit card.
Right.
Because when it comes out of debit card, that card gets cut off. You do gotta switch everything.
But using the routing and account number or setting it up online. But even that, I remember when I first set up online banking and the only thing that I could do is look at my accounts. And now I can, from my phone, I can do everything. I can deposit a check. I can do everything. So that's that shift, that technology shift, just keeping up with it.
I'll give First Horizon credit. We set up at our church automatic drafting for some givers called Joyful Giving, Joyful Response, and set up one lady, Sylvia, and got a call from First Horizon. It's drafting on the old account. Went back in, told the account manager, change it back the way I put it, and got it next month from First Horizon. They're still drafting on the old account. 3 times we finally got it fixed, but they watch it and they protect them, and I was glad for that.
Yeah.
Something I learned about direct deposit, which I never knew before. We have direct deposit of our paychecks at work, and so they put your money from your paycheck in your account. But that direct deposit also lets money come out of your account.
Yeah.
And one time, our office manager made an error with the bank, and so instead of putting money in our account, she took thousands of dollars out of our account and didn't let anyone know. So we were all, it was like the course on a Saturday or whatever, and all of a sudden everyone's account was like hit for thousands of dollars, and we're all like, oh great, of course luckily it only happened to the partner, so that was a little better than all the employees, but it wasn't good. And I didn't know that. When you're signing up direct deposit, you're also signing direct withdrawal, so just FYI. It got fixed, but not without a lot of gnashing of teeth.
My main concern, even though this is very convenient for us, is what is it doing to us, the individual? It seems to me that it's dumbing us down a little bit. Where we don't have to think, we don't have to process in our brains like we used to. Although this generation, this younger generation, they're very smart technically, but when it comes to processing with their own brain, it's very difficult for them. Because things are made automatic for them. So easy.
And I have to piggyback on what she's saying, because I've made it a point consciously to do this. I go into a retail establishment, and they ring up my stuff, and I give them my money, and they don't even think. You know how they used to say 25, 30, 35. They look right up, and whatever it says up there, that's what they give you. They don't count anything.
They can't.
And that's absolutely amazing to me how, it's very simple math, but they'll look up there, and if that thing shuts down, they're lost.
Yeah.
And God forbid if you give them 2 pennies and they give us 27 cents, and they're only supposed to take out 25 out of your.
That totally throws.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Or you go through McDonald's drive-in and they say, "I'm sorry, we can't process your order. The computer's down.
Right.
I can't make change. I can't subtract."
Yeah.
But what amazes me, if you say your bill is $6.85, or even 15 cents, you give them a $10 bill and the change. They're totally lost. I've had them have to call the manager to figure out what they're supposed to do.
The flip side of that is, why are you handing me cash?
Half anymore. Like, who are you? Where do you come from?
Let me take up for the younger people.
That's
At least let me take up for the younger people. When you look at their world, all these processes to them are irrelevant. I mean, they know they're going to get the right change. They know they're going to do this. Bang, bang, somebody's done it for them. Let's go on and put their mind to something else. You know, that's what I'm thinking they're doing. You know, it may not be that they're not using that mind. They just not use that mind the way you use that mind. You know,
Old school.
Right. It's old school. Old school is good.
That's exactly what the program is.
And
I can appreciate it.
There's a difference. And then here's the other thing is this is the way that they've been trained with their employer, because that's an accounting safeguard for the retail exception. Putting everything into the computer, at the end of the day, instead of having to count out a drawer, or they know exactly what they should have in that drawer or should have come out of that drawer. And you don't have somebody started off as a teller in my early life. You don't have somebody there till 9 o'clock on a Friday night trying to find $4.85. You know, it's an accounting thing, and those records go directly to corporate. So I agree. It's the same way in churches when we talk about generational diversity. How is your church communicating? We're having to figure out a whole different way of communicating, because we used to print bulletins. And now, you know, we don't print bulletins, we have it up on the screen. We used to print newsletters. Well, we put them online and we send them by email. But then we still have that generation that wants that printed piece of paper. As you see, all of these things printed, you know, they want that printed piece of paper. So we have to be ready to serve across those generations. You gotta have it available in paper, you gotta have it available by email, and you have to have it available online so they can just pull it up on their phone.
And that's an economic issue, because most of those folks who want it on paper, they're the ones who gives that check every week, every month. So if you don't take care of them,
yeah, you got to go across.
Absolutely.
And the thing about it for us in the way that we serve, let's just talk about the community that we serve. You know, when we're talking about Jake's money, and when we were there, we were serving this past winter for the winter warrant. Look at the generations that were there. We saw grandmothers with grandchildren, you know, all living in the same household. We saw older people, we saw younger people. We're going to have to figure out how do we serve all of them in a way that's meaningful for them, but meaningful for us too. Remember, we used to be able to put posters up about things that were coming, you know, coming up in the community. They don't do posters. It's online. They don't print tickets. It's online. So how do we, for the people that we're serving, how do we get the word out to them? This is coming to your area. You know, we're here to serve. We put the signage on the road. We put the flyers up, but you also put it online. And you also, you know, word of mouth is a good one too.
I give an example about writing a letter. You know, writing a letter. When I started writing a letter, it comes from paper. I'd write my little rough draft, and then I'd go through it, and then I'd write better, type it up, and then I'd check my spelling and all that. Right now, I mean, I never thought when I first started that I'd get comfortable to put it on the computer. And I go, put it on the computer. As I'm in real time, I misspell I before E except after C, it corrects it, you know, right away.
Well, the pandemic has really changed how teachers are teaching kids. You know, we use technology in school, but not like it's having to be used now. You know, for the kids that are sitting in a classroom, and Roger's wife's having to do this every day. She's got kids that she's teaching in her face, and then she's got kids that they're having to do Zoom with, so they're recording that same session, if they're lucky and not having to do things twice. And how we have to reach kids is so different now. There'll never be another snow day, because now you can just say classes online and we'll Zoom at 10 o'clock. I mean, it's just changed how you do school. It's changed how you go to the doctor.
Well,
I mean, I don't get to go to the doctor most of the time.
I mean, there's telehealth, but not everything is telehealth.
Right.
You know, that's the trouble. People think that everything can be telehealth,
Right.
but it can't all be telehealth, so that's the trouble. You know, I mean, there are certain things you can do through the telephone and video, but then there's a lot of things you can't. And so
And school's the same way.
people think that you can, but there's a lot of things you can't. You know, there's a lot of things I can't diagnose and treat over the video or telephone, and I won't. You know what I mean? And so it's just, no, you're going to have to come in. And so, I mean, you get a younger generation and they've said, well, I've decided that I have this because I've looked it up and I know that's what it is. Well, yeah, that's not really what you have.
I would say that to base off of what you
It
just
makes it
said
hard.
though, to remember that it is multi-generational. So in health, in school, in banking, we're going to do some stuff online, but then some stuff is in person. And I would say that while you definitely want the younger generation to run right smack in the middle, and you want the younger generation to teach you about technology and stuff, that is very important for the older generation to still mentor, because if you don't, they're not going to learn a lot of things unless they have mentors. And I say that because how many of us are on boards or outside of Rotary, the veterans group, different things? How can we incorporate younger people in there to learn the technology for us, but then to give them the experiences too?
Right, right.
I think technology is great. It's great, but where's your fail safe? Because technology is subject to fail. And if we don't know how to use the human brain to figure out, it shouldn't be if you go to McDonald's because the computer is down, that shuts down the human being. That they can't even operate. They can't even think because the computer's down. That's too much connection of the brain to a computer when the brain has not learned to calculate things itself. That's my concern, because any type of technology is subject to fail.
Well, and here's the beauty and the benefit of this multi-generational
Exactly.
diversity.
As you were saying.
You know, give you an example. Walked into Verizon. This is years ago, so I have learned my lesson. Does this tell you? Walked into Verizon. My child was in 8th grade. Phone had broken, and I am budget conscious. Right? Got a budget with this kid. I'm not buying the latest phone. And I said, this is what is needed. They don't need da 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 da. And I said, oh, and the Verizon guy was the kindest person. And he looked at me and he said, I understand your concerns about your budget, but you're asking them to operate in their world with your technology. They need their technology to operate in their world. You need to find a happy medium between the two. And I was like, he brought it to me in a way that was kind and that elevated me. Didn't say, you're so stupid, you don't know anything.
Right.
And, you know, and I think that's one of the things that not only do we need to be open to, we need to be open to hearing that, we need to be open to speaking that, speaking in love and respect to someone that may not be able to make change. Say, hey, I remember that. Here's the thing that taught me. Sharing that experience, even just in a second, you know, it's a two-way street. And I agree. There's not a fail-safe that way, but then also there's not time in the day for a young person in their education for a teacher to take that on. You know, so we have to be open to to each other.
And that's one thing we older people, I guess I can put myself in that category.
You didn't put yourself
One of the things I do a training session on effective listening. But what oftentimes as older people, we have a tendency to listen to respond versus listening to hear. Mm-hmm. And how frustrating is it for you when you're talking to someone and before you finish talking to them, they're responding, which tells you, me, you hadn't heard a word I said. You were listening to respond versus listening to hear what I said. And again, it goes both ways. The younger generation, but we as the older generation, we have a tendency of thinking we're older, we know more. But we got to listen to hear what they say. And they appreciate, young people appreciate it.
Where's the piece of empathy that's going to come in with technology? Right now, they talk about folk out there shooting up people, and they don't get it. You know, my wife is dealing with children that abuse animals and stuff, and they you know, and their siblings, and they see that whatever they killed today came back alive on the video. So where's the empathy and the real life, the real living connected? You know.
This technology change is also affecting the education system because, like Jen just said, no more snow days.
Yeah.
That's all well and good, except from an administrative standpoint, the education system in the state has a mandate for 180 contact days. Now, I've seen you online 31 times and got no credit for contact. And until I know what you've learned, I don't know if that was a sufficient contact to share education. We're trying to set up at Classroom Connections a remote access and instructional setting, like I mentioned the other day over at Morningstar Baptist. And talking to Dr. Adele, find out none of that time, except when the teacher's in the room, does it count as contact time. And he's screwed because all of a sudden he's got 40 days to make up and no way to reach a satisfactory answer that they've been taught. And what does the education system supposed to do for us? It's supposed to anchor us to our past, anchor us to our society, anchor us to the future in technology, and prepare us. And it's having a heartburn trying to get there.
Well, I'm going to wrap up. We've got a whole lot of conversation. I'm going to wrap up with just some misconceptions about mentorship. Don't think that the mentor has to be older and the mentee has to be younger. It can be flipped. Don't think that a mentor, that you must meet a mentor only in an office or for coffee. It can be anyway. It can be in a chat, you know, it can be over chat, it can be text, it can be whatever. Don't think that you should only have one. The same way that we don't want to get our information just from one source, don't think that you need to limit it to one. And don't think that you have to ask somebody for them to be your mentor. That's a very formal relationship that we're putting on that a younger generation is not going to recognize, and they may be put off by that formality. It can be as simple as a 15-minute, 10-minute conversation where you get a lot of information that you can store and sift through at your own pace. You no longer need a mentor. The idea was once you got to a certain period in your professional or your personal life, you didn't need a mentor. And that's wrong. You don't need somebody with decades of work experience in order to learn about this. So just elevate your mindset. Look to, as we talk about, you know, service before self, how can we serve this person, and even on in the most remote interaction.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
I'll give you the answer to that. Go ahead. I'll get this moving quick. You want to go before that?
Yeah, let me just do this. At one point, I was thinking about our club, but at one point our church used to do an initiative with Second Harvest Food Bank. And we served probably a couple hundred people. And I was thinking about our club collaborating and partnering with Second Harvest, if they're still willing, because they used to bring a big truck loaded with, I mean, you name it. And we'd spend all day handing out, I mean, we had so much we didn't have enough food to give it to. But I thought that might be a good project for us. You know, we've been trying to do some things, but I mean something meaningful. People are hurting. People need food. And I was thinking the club could be a very active part, or actually we could sponsor it and be a part of handing that out to the community. Just something to think about. I haven't solidified anything. I made a call down the Second Harvest, but obviously I hadn't pulled the trigger on anything yet. But I wanted to plant the seed this morning to get you thinking.
That's a great idea.
Please let me make an appeal for, I need some mentors, some volunteers, some teachers. If you give 1 or 2 hours a week online children are going to need your expertise in teaching them schoolwork. We have things set up over at Morning Star Baptist Church, and we're trying to mentor kids and tutor them, and you can do it online. Just give me a little information, and we get you certified so you can come on in and help. Okay, this has to happen. It's your future.
Thank you. Send us information on that?
Yes, sir, I will.
All right, real quickly, the answers to the movie quiz. All right? And thanks to those of you who submitted the answers. You got most of them right. Pretty good. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Muhammad Ali. Or there's another movie called The Greatest.
Yep.
Both things were correct. If you build it, he will come.
Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams. It's not over. Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Animal House. Right. This could be the start of a beautiful friendship.
Casablanca.
I got 5 different Casablanca ones.
Yeah.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
Jaws.
Jaws. Leave the gun. Take the cannolis. Godfather. The first Godfather movie. You're killing me, Smalls.
Sandlot.
The Sandlot. That's no moon. That's a spaceship. Star Wars, Episode 4. We'll always have Paris. Casablanca. They call me Mr. Tibbs.
And the heat of the night.
The heat of the night. I could have been a contender.
On the waterfront.
On the waterfront. Round up the usual suspects. Casablanca. When I get to liking someone, they ain't around long. Notice when you get to disliking someone, they ain't around long either.
Godfather.
No, somebody, what you got that right. Outlaw Josie Wales.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
That's my favorite Western. Go ahead, make my day.
Dirty,
It's
dirty.
not Dirty Harry. I give you half credit for Dirty Harry.
Oh, come on.
The movie's a sudden impact.
Oh,
Dirty Harry's a character. Dirty Harry was the first Dirty Harry movie. This was the third sudden impact. I gave you half credit for that. Of all the gin joints in all the world, I had to walk into mine. Casablanca. Help me, Obi-Wan. You're my only hope. Star Wars Episode 4. Some of you got this half correct, this next one. I make an offer he don't refuse. Godfather Part 2. That was the young Vito Corleone when he was in Brooklyn growing up, and that was the first time he made that line. I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. Wizard of Oz. I'm King of the World. Titanic. Elementary, my dear Watson. Sherlock Holmes. And this one I gave Nancy extra credit for, this one. It's Alive, It's Alive. Frankenstein. But also it was in Weird Science, the movie Weird Science. A martini, shaken, not stirred. Any James Bond movie.
Yeah, I was like, which one is it in first?
Keep your friends close, put your enemies closer. Godfather, both 1 and 2, that was said. Play it again, Sam. There's a debate on this one. It's Casablanca. I've heard people say that he never really said that in the movie. And I looked it up, and some people said it did, so I give you credit for that. I'll be back. Anything with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He says it in every movie. Houston, we have a problem. Apollo 13. Life is like a box of chocolates. Forrest Gump. There's no crying in baseball. League of Their Own. What we have here is failure to communicate.
Cool Hand Luke.
Cool Hand Luke. Yo, Adrian. Rocky, you talking to me? Taxi driver. Here's Johnny. Shiny. Yes. You had me at hello. Jerry Maguire. Your job is not to die for your country. Your job is to make the enemy die for his country. Patton. And today I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
Pride
If you
of the
said Lou
Yankees.
Gehrig, I gave you half credit. Because it was Lou Gehrig who said that. The movie was Pride of the Yankees. Rhino got the most right. And Nancy was just behind him. So Rhino, you get the 20 bucks. Now,
Cart.
cart. All right. And that's another thing to talk about. Since we don't have a sergeant of arms yet,
You talking to me?
who used to, this is for Greg and Lori's identification, our sergeant at arms always fined us. For example, Steve's phone rang during meeting. That's a fine. That's a dollar. So we would collect money for Jake for the winter warming event. Our sergeant at arms would fine us money, and that went into just a general fund pot. And we also had the blue buckets for cart. And I'm going to suggest, if anybody has those buckets, to bring them to these meetings, if at all possible. If not, we throw it in, and we have to at least let Glenn know how much of that goes to cart and how much of it just the regular Jake's fund.
Well, see, the thing with, you're in trouble with that, Rick.
Cart things, yeah.
You don't get change anymore when you go shopping. Use cash, use cards.
I know, we
So-
can find ones.
Yeah, and CART is C-A-R-T, Coins from Alzheimer's Research
Trust.
And we don't do coins anymore, that much anymore. But anyway, that when we were here for the district governor, did we not have our banner up?
Yes.
Is it possible to put it up every time? Like right here. So people walking by can see Hickory Sunrise Road, meaning right here.
We simply have to commit somebody to bringing it.
Yeah, who has it? Who has it stand, right?
Who does
Talking
have
to
it?
me?
Wayne has it?
I bought it last time and took it back.
Yeah, we get it from,
Okay.
get it from him?
And he has not indicated that he won't be back on July 1st.
Yeah, but there's a few months until.
Yeah, we need an interim.
It's gonna get cold come Friday. This is not gonna happen.
Yeah, but then we'll be up in the loft at First Horizon.
Do you wanna carry the flag around if we're inside?
Well, if we're in my building, we can leave it up there. I mean, nobody goes up there
I don't
ever.
want to be negative, Nelly, but the numbers of our coronavirus in the county are skyrocketing, and the county had 90 cases the other day. So that was the most we had in the whole county ever. And I don't know that we want to commit to doing in-person meetings right at this moment. I just want to put that out there first. I get the numbers every week, from the hospital, and that was last Friday. There's 90 cases.
Tama County is one of the top patients.
Yeah, Tama County, 90 here ever had. I don't want to. We're not going to go outside. We're going to go inside. I hate to say it, and I don't know maybe, but we may want to think about visiting a couple, maybe start back. It's just an idea. Don't kill me. Sorry.
You might
We
want to
have
go
2 weeks to make a decision.
I'm just telling you
Because the next
about the
meeting's 2 weeks
numbers.
from now.
I would think we keep meeting here as long as we can stand the temperature.
It's like it went up and then it went down and now it's like way up. In fact, I can show you. I have a picture if you want to see the graph.
Probably the tentative plan would be to meet here, dependent on weather. If it doesn't look like it's shaping up to be good weather-wise, make a decision to switch to Zoom. Would everyone be available to Zoom in the morning, or would we want to consider changing that time if we were not able to meet present?
Your emails work just fine. If we make a decision on the night before, send us, say, we're on, we're off, whatever.
Yeah. Why don't we do that? Keep the same time. If weather doesn't look like it's going to permit, we'll stay in touch. Then we'll switch to Zoom to online platform.
Yeah, just do us an out before, because I'm driving an hour. So at 5 a.m. I'm home. If I'm going to be in my pajamas, I'm going back to bed.
This morning, I was down to Jenna Matthews at Lenore Ryan about are they open yet, and they're not. I just heard from her, and they'll make a decision in January except outside groups. We can't be there at least for January.
How big is the room?
So it's the entire upstairs of the bank. So it's big. We have plenty of room.
I don't know. I don't mean to be. I just.
No, you're totally right, Nancy. The numbers continue to go
I
up.
have the graph. If anybody wants to see it, it's ugly. It is ugly.
two,
That's
we
Catawba
do it.
Hospital, Catawba County.
At my building,
Okay.
like, what if something were to happen and I can't get there? That means y'all can't get in. So,
Let's do it like you just suggested.
yeah.
And I think we'll do that.
It is just about 8 o'clock. We did want to mention, Bob, I don't know if you have anything to add, but Ron Leach had originally said that he was going to ask somebody to take over the Salvation Army Kettle project for this year. He has been in communication with the individual that he's worked with in the past to get a location, and he usually tries to get the prime location. He says real good at Walmart on certain dates. But he's since emailed back. I think the group might have seen it or not, but said that he is going to actually continue to do that project and help head that up. He said since he hasn't been able to make the meeting because of work, he wants to continue to contribute that way. So just be thinking, and I'll communicate with him to send out a schedule. But upcoming, that's something that each year, I think fairly consistently we've participated with. We're signing up for time slots to man the kettle, so to speak, in front of Walmart, which is the location that he has. Bob, any additional?
He's arranged, if I read his note right, he's arranged the weekend after Black Friday, Friday after Black Friday, and normally what we sign up for is 1 or 2 hour stints, and where we have had it in the past and where it sounds like we'll have it this year is at the main door on the west end of the building. So it's a good high traffic spot. It was their only main entrance during the first part of the shutdown. It's just a matter of getting there so the guy leading you in doesn't have to wait forever.
You're talking about the door up at the grocery area,
Up towards Sam's.
That's by the pharmacy. That was shut down during the initial phase.
Well, anyhow, that's where we should get this time.
Okay, that's where we're last.
We need to close, guys.
All right.
On the things we didn't say is
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Bing!